We get a brief look into the past as our group has a little strategy meeting. Pencilgun explains that at the start of battle, Weatherman activates a skill. It sets the maximum level of all characters in the area except for him to level 50. The boys are shocked, as Weatherman is an insane level 200. This is why their levels don't really matter against him, and player skill is key. The guys are still pretty new to the game, so they at least need to grind to level 50. Back to the present, the two guys enter the Iron Ruins of Divinity. They search for a hidden area that is perfect for grinding that the Pencilgun told them about. But it's taking longer than expected to find it. It's like a whole different game compared to outside of the ruins, and black panels are sliding around all over the place. Rakuro, always the trash game player, points out that they could probably do some really cool stuff if they glitched out the platforms. Katsuo knows his friend well and tells him that he needs to wash away all the trash game stuff in his brain. This place reminds Katsuo of a god-tier sci-fi game, but Rakuro just wants to know what level he is at. Katsuo reveals that he's level 25, and Rakuro mocks him for still being in his 20s. Rakuro is level 31, so Katsuo is quick to point out that they aren't that far apart. Imo unintentionally roasts Katsuo as she explains that Rakuro is just worried about how weak and frail he is. Just then, Imo warns the boys to be careful, as some big thing called the Giant Suppression Dome almost crushes them. It's clearly an enemy, but Katsuo confidently tells Rakuro to sit this one out.
そこらに浮いてる板に敵も紛れてんのか？
サンラクは手を出さなくていいよ。レベルカウンター。素直な動きだ。カウンター練習用のエネミーかな。クラッシュアッパー。
Imo wonders if that's really okay, but Rakuro is confident in his friend's abilities. Katsuo prepares to fight and explains that no matter how low a level you are in SLF, it gives each player a chance. With skill alone, he destroys the drone with just one punch, impressing his teammates. Katsuo explains that the red glowing on his hands is a spell that gives bonuses to strength and vitality. More enemies appear, and he goes on to explain that he selected a Spirit Fist user monk. He cannot equip weapons, but in exchange, he can give himself buffs and beat things down with his fists.
モブは文句の剣技使い。武器を装備できない代わりにバフで強化しまくってんな。体力と耐久力多めの軽戦士ビルドって感じかな。
多少のダメージを前提としたビルド。
As for his build, he put most of his stats into HP and vitality. Katsuo finishes up destroying the enemies and can tell what Rakuro's build is just by knowing him. The Katsuo guessed that Rakuro is a glass cannon with a strength and agility focus. He is partially right, but Rakuro corrects him as he is a luck and agility focused fighter. Little Imo corrects him even further and explains that Rakuro has a Warple soul, but still nobody knows what that is. They continue on their long journey, following the precise instructions on the map Pencilgun gave them. It has them go in several directions and through many rooms. They are all amazed by the person who made the map, since it must have required a lot of patience. The final instructions are to jump down a hole, but they pause as they wonder if it's some kind of prank to make them end their lives. Katsuo doesn't want the glass cannon Rakuro to insta-die going down there, so he takes the lead. Imo says that Katsuo's one brave lady, but Rakuro tries to explain that Katsuo was actually a guy. Katsuo tells them to come down, but calls Rakuro a loser. While doing so, the Rakuro gets furious and jumps down, ready to get some revenge. He quickly forgets the insult. However, when he sees that they have arrived at the hidden area, according to Pencilgun's instructions, they will be able to fish up a monster called the Lifestyle Lake Serpent in the lake. Katsuo wonders if they will really be able to catch anything with their puny little rods, but they decide to give it a try. The two friends are super competitive and decide to compete to see who can catch more. Rakuro's father used to take him fishing all the time, so he knows all the tips and tricks. Rakuro quickly gets a bite, but Katsuo points out that it probably has more to do. With all his luck, Rakuro only manages to get a salmon, but everyone is shocked when Katsuo pulls out his giant serpent.
カツオ、こいつだ。ライムスタイドレイクサーペントだ。それじゃあそろそろ俺も新武器の。
The Lifestyle Lake Serpent is a powerful beast. So Rakuro decides that it's time to unveil his new weapon. Katsuo reminds Rakuro that he's too low of a level to equip the Moonblades, but sneaky Rakuro reveals that he had more weapons made. These are called the Empire B Twin Blades. The serpent begins attacking, and Imo explains to Katsuo that she had her sister make these blades for Rakuro. A look back shows the little bunny completing the blades made from the Empire B Queen material Rakuro brought her. Bylak gets upset when Rakuro almost forgets her name, so he realizes that he might have to manage affection levels with rabbits other than Imo and Vash. Rakuro panics as he starts getting traumatizing flashbacks from a trash game dating simulator. In that dating simulator, he had to balance the affection levels of a bunch of different girls. If he makes the slightest mistake, he will get the bad ending where all the girls move to Italy to apprentice at a pizzeria. His character, named Sunraku Picklefish, would have his adolescence crushed beneath a pizza stone. Rakuro quickly snaps out of his depression and compliments Bylak on making his new blades. She reveals that his right-hand blade has a special attribute. We then watch as he puts it to work against the serpent. The guys do their best against it, but they struggle. Their levels are just too low to put more than a scratch on the creature. Rakuro explains that some weapons, skills, spells, and monster attacks have a corrosion attribute. If enough damage is dealt to a certain part of an avatar, it will cause visible damage and create a weak point there. Bylak explained that his right-hand weapon doesn't corrode in the normal way. It infects the part that Rakuro attacks and corrodes over time, more like a corrosive poison, with the corrode attribute building up and warming its way in little by little. If he keeps dealing more corrosive poison with repeated strikes, it breaks through the enemy's debuff resistance and causes the corrosive attribute to show itself faster. Rakuro finally manages to create a weak spot, so Katsuo focuses all his strength on attacking it. They finally manage to hurt the thing.
時間が経てば敵のデバフテーションを突破して鱗を剥がしたぞカット。
了解。剣気クロー。
So Imo wants to join the fight. The serpent quickly targets her, and Rakuro can't get to her in time, but Katsuo jumps in to take the hit instead. Luckily, Katsuo survives because he built himself like a tank. Katsuo stuns the serpent, so they all combine their power to attack the beast, and they finally win the fight.
ダメージ前提のビルドだからね。ありがとうですわ。レベルカウンター。何の畑だ。よっしゃ。
The fight was definitely worth it, as it gave a lot of experience. And the boys are already starting to level up. Katsuo goes up 4 levels and unlocks a bunch of skills. He wonders if he can link the skills, but Rakuro assumes that he's mistaking SLF for a different game. Rakuro doesn't even know what skill linking is, but Katsuo is certain it must be possible since SLF is a game all about skills. Katsuo explains that he should have learned it that in other games, but Rakuro skipped right past that starter town. Katsuo then explains that skills with different proficiency levels can be linked up at a facility called the Skill Garden that lets him create new combo skills. Rakuro now realizes why some of his skills were changing names, since that just meant that they could now be linked. There is a lot more that can be done at the Skill Garden, so Rakuro freaks out after not knowing any of it. Katsuo then mentions subjobs and guilds, which makes him freak out even more since he missed so much from just skipping one little town. Rakuro decides that he won't get anywhere by being depressed and decides to continue grinding. Sometime later, the boys regroup with Pensilgan. She is happy with their progress as Katsuo is now level 40 and Rakuro is level 42. That's a lot of progress in such a short amount of time, so they are ahead of schedule. Katsuo tries to explain how little Rakuro knows about stuff. The Rakuro quiets him down. Katsuo was pretty impressed with the Emo's power, and Rakuro reveals that his precious little bunny friend is already level 56. They're still pretty pressed for time overall, which is why Pensilgan had to use an expensive tent that doubles as a save point. Pensilgan then revealed that it's time for them to go meet someone, and this hour of the night is the only time they can do it. This person is a unique NPC named Satsuna, and they need to speak to her in order to fight Weatherman. Elsewhere in the night, we see this Satsuna person as she sings by a tree. Rakuro and his friends then make their way through the prismatic forest. Pensilgan explains that they have to find a dark spot amongst all the luminescent moss. When they find the spot, she presses on it, and it reveals a secret passage. Rakuro is upset that he passed the forest without finding this area. But Pensilgan explains that finding these time-specific hidden areas is luck of the draw. She even just happened to stumble upon this place. Rakuro looks down on those with less luck than him, but Katsuo takes exception to this stupid face he is making. Pensilgan tells them to stop their little comedy because they have reached their destination. This place is filled with beautiful flowers, but the team thinks that it's pretty creepy. Singing can be heard nearby, and Katsuo brings their attention to the singing girl. This girl is Setsuna, so a bird brain protagonist wonders if there's a bug in this god in your game. Katsuo pities is his trash game-loving friend since his mind always assumes bugs over plot reasons. Pensilgan greets this NPC named Setsuna, and Rakuro takes note of how her clothes don't seem like they belong in a fantasy world. He wonders if she is from the setting age of antiquity, the divinity. If so, she could hold the key to the unique scenario that he unlocked. Rakuro decides to introduce himself, painting himself as a man of 100 skills. The Pensilgan interrupts him and introduces her friends as Stooge 1 and Stooge 2. They are Horace in the hole, finally putting Weatherman to rest. Emo and Katsuo give their names, but Rakuro wants another shot at his introduction. Pensilgan admits that her new team doesn't seem like much now, but she plans to train them up before the battle. This ghost lady then says some surprising stuff, as she has never met someone with such a presence, applied twice when referring to Rakuro. On top of that, he's also accompanied by Cinderella's child. Rakuro has no clue what she is talking about, but Setsuna just says that he reminds her of someone she used to know a long time ago. She thanks him for reviving some long-lost memories, but Rakuro's still completely lost. It's time to get down to business, so the screen pops up, prompting them to begin a new, unique scenario the guys accept. Setsuna reveals that Weatherman was her dearest love. They had a minor misunderstanding, and she passed away. Since then, all Weatherman has done his entire life is guard her grave. Setsuna has no clue how much time has passed since then. But the next thing she knew, she was in this ghost-like state. Setsuna feels no resentment about the way her life ended, but she believes that things that end should lie in the past. They shouldn't tie down someone's present or their future. She can't stand knowing that Weatherman remains tied to her past. Weatherman used the spell she created to create a barrier around her grave, and did some other complicated stuff to make it impossible for anyone to reach its location. However, on the night of a new moon, when the moon loses all its light, a crack forms in the barrier. Katsuo puts it pretty bluntly and determines that all they have to do is jump through this crack and fight Weatherman. Setsuna has told them everything and just wishes that they will finally be able to put him to rest. Pensilgan tells her that they are nothing like the losers who tried before and assures her that they will put an end to all this suffering. Rakuro and Katsuo are stunned, since this Pensilgan is nothing like the Pensilgan they know. The Pensilgan they know once dragged an NPC king behind her carriage in order to lure her enemies. She is also the Pensilgan that tied an NPC princess to a chandelier to bait players into trying to rescue her. The fact that she is having a pleasant conversation with an NPC right now is unbelievable to them. They mockingly wonder if she has developed some kind of soul, but Pensilgan makes them pay the price for laughing at her. Pensilgan wishes she could PK them a bunch of times, but they don't have time as they must prepare for the fight with Weatherman. Pensilgan reveals that she does like to play the game straight. Sometimes something about Setsuna and her story has her invested. Pensilgan seems almost ashamed when she admits to this, but Rakuro thinks it's totally fine. Getting serious about a game is a great thing in his eyes, since everything is more fun when a person takes it seriously. Katsuo completely agrees and points out that it's pretty much his job. Since he is a pro gamer, Rakuro is always looking for a way to mock his friend, so he points out that Katsuo is a pro gamer, but he still hasn't found a single unique thing for himself for SLF. The guys begin fighting and are only stopped when Pensilgan laughs at them for reminding her that they are just as stupid as she is. Pensilgan gets serious and reminds them that they are facing a monster that forces players to level down to level 50. That is something unprecedented in boss battle history, but she is confident that they can beat him. They all agreed to take their mission seriously and join hands. Sometime later, Rakuro wakes up and explains that he has been grinding extremely hard ever since he met Setsuna. Every day, He has been having late nights. He has finally managed to reach level 51, and Katsuo was at level 46. Now he needs to work on his skills, and Imo told them that there was a skill garden for linking skills and rabbit chooser. Rakuro remembers how Pensilgan told them that this fight would depend completely on their skills, so he is determined to improve them. Rakuro is then greeted by his mother, aka, who is glad that he has been keeping up with their agreement over the summer break. Rakuro points out that he didn't really have a choice since he didn't want her physically logging him out of his game anymore. Rakuro's younger sister Rumi is really upset about their mother keeping her pet bugs in the kitchen and notices that Rakuro is checking out one of the models in her magazine. The model's name is Toa, and according to Rumi, she is the greatest model to ever exist. This Toa name has something to do with the Setsuna name, and we learned that Pensilgan is actually Toa. Rumi explains that she has been doing some part-time modeling herself, but she will have to ask their dad to get some more publicity. Their father just so happens to return home, and he shows off the gigantic fish that he caught. His name is Shenji, and his kids are disappointed that they will have to eat fish for every meal again for a while. In their household, they have an agreement, a bit of a rule. For breakfast and dinner on Sundays, they have to eat and talk together as a family. This rule was necessary since if it didn't exist, then they would all get lost in their own hobbies and never see each other. Shanji needs to clean the fish as soon as possible, but Rumi desperately tells him to do it in the kitchen. Rakuro is sure that they might seem weird to the outside world, but he thinks his family has just found out a way to make things work for themselves. Rakuro then decides that it's time to head back into SLF, as there are only 2 weeks left until the battle with Weatherman. It will definitely be a difficult fight, especially after the information that Pensilgan gave him. Weatherman is a non-stop source of single-digit frame attacks, instant death moves, and area attacks. However, this information made him realize where the perfect place to practice would be: the trash game, where constant glitches make all the attacks come at crazy speed. The game is called Berserk Online Passion. Rakuro enters this game, also known as Burp, and points out how it's always so deserted. No one is even there. So Rakuro decides that he will just fight the final boss of the story mode. Just then, he runs into a random player named Dragonfly. This kid is really eager for a fight and explains that he is still new to the game. He hasn't even beat the final boss yet, and he would love it if Rakuro could give him some tips. This game is pretty old, so Rakuro can't believe this kid is a new player and even calls him an endangered species. Rakuro acknowledges that this fight won't be the best for his training, but he can't pass up an opportunity to fight such a rare specimen. This is of course a trash game, so they agree that glitches can be used in their fight. Rakuro analyzes this kid and determines that he has an all-around build. This is a type that generates a lot of glitches, but Rakuro assumes that he won't know how to use them. The battle starts, but Rakuro is instantly shot when Dragonfly charges in. Rakuro reminds himself that this kid is a beginner, so he probably won't be using typical strategies. Rakuro is then surprised even further when this kid draws his fist back just before unleashing the punch motion. This is a technique that allows a player to generate a bug that extends their arm like rubber. If the hit lands, it deals a 2-hit combo with double the damage. Its name is Pile Bunker, and Dragonfly is shocked to see that he missed. Rakuro explains that he used a bug move called Yo-Yo, which throws off a player's avatar texture and hits the box instantly. Rakuro acknowledges that this kid can use some basic bugs, but he explains that there's way more to this game than that. Berserk is filled with bugs that players have discovered through trial and error and research, and he plans to give this kid a full demonstration. Thanks for watching my recap, Unruly Family. If you want to show some support for the channel, please like, subscribe, share, and comment.